Hi everybody, welcome. How are you today? I haven't gone live for like ages, but hello. I'm just gonna go and tag on a couple of people. So we've got a beautiful soul truth conversation show coming up for you today. Let me just go and see if I can find Steph. As soon as Steph comes on, let me know, Steph, that you're there, and then I can tag you and we can bring you on. So if you're catching this, please come on, say hello. If you're catching the replay, then hashtag a truth or soul truth. Let us know that you're there. This is going to be super exciting. We're on episode 7. So I started this show basically because I just loved having conversations with like soul-led leaders, entrepreneurs in the industry, and it was for nothing other than to be having these conversations. And we've had 6 already, so if you haven't caught them, then go over to my YouTube channel, which is the Soul Truth Conversation Show. All the episodes are on there, or you can scroll all the way through my feed and then you can probably go back and find the old episodes. If you've never met me before, then hello and welcome. Hey Steph. Okay, let's just see if we can bring Steph in. I'm going to add Steph, send her an invitation. If you've never met me before, I'm Claire Louise Chapman. Yes, you can come on my video. We can definitely approve that. We are all done. So yeah.
Hi.
Hi Steph, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Excellent. I'm really good, thank you. Really good. I was just about to introduce myself. But if I don't bring you straight on for some reason, like Facebook goes, no, they don't want her to come on now, and they just like drop you. So I'm like, no, let's bring you on. Let's start having this conversation. So
Let's do
yeah,
it.
Claire Louise Chapman. I literally help empower women by reuniting them back to their truth so that they can stand in their full expression and own their authentic identity. So that's what I do. But today, this is all about Steph and I having like just an incredible conversation, which I'm so excited for, Steph. So with that, Steph, please come on, introduce yourself, tell us who you are. And I know we've got a really juicy conversation to be having today. We've got a great topic. So yeah.
Yay! Likewise, thank you. Real quick, real quick. I can only see like the type, you know? Do you know do you know how do I get rid of that? You know where I type stuff in?
How you can see what, sorry?
It's just I can't see it's okay. I'll just figure it out. I was typing in some people to tag them in, and now I
Yeah.
can't see like half the screen. So I was gonna ask you real quick before I start just jumping in. Otherwise, I'm just because I can't see any of the comments. So I did.
Okay. Just check. You can swipe, can't you, one way or the other, and see if the comments come back that way. I can see that you've tagged some people.
Yeah.
So I keep an eye
Okay.
on the comments. If people start talking and asking questions, then I will
All
read
right.
them and we'll
I'm
fire
just gonna
them.
ignore that. So, hi, I'm so glad to be here with you. You know, I see you around the Facebooks and everything you're up to and your mission. And I'm super glad to be here. I'm down here in San Diego, California, and I'm an intuitive soul purpose coach. With my intuition, I'm able to really see right into the core of the story of where a woman might be held back in their life. Like there's something that's kind of out of alignment with the soul's truth and where they really want to be. And so we just get on course and then I help them manifest whatever it is that they're looking for. It might be like switching jobs. It might be a new man. It might be starting their soul business. But to me, it's like, that's the byproduct of the alignment. That's the byproduct of like how we're feeling on the inside, right? So
100%.
yeah.
100%. And yeah, I'm so happy that you said that because I literally got one of my clients now, Lizzie Vince. I don't know if you know Lizzie. Anybody knows Lizzie, give her all the love. But she literally wrote the other day, I think it was yesterday, life is like an orgasm. Even if you take everything away, it still feels like that. And that's exactly what, I used to say is like, my life feels like an orgasm without having to have the orgasm. Like, it's that internal feeling. And obviously that wasn't always there. It's come through a lot of shadow work, healing work, shifting the belief systems. But you're 100% right. When you start to get that feeling back within yourself and you're in alignment and I am for standing in your truth. That's just like deep in my core because there was so much in my life where I was out of my truth, whereas the people pleaser, where I would say yes when I want to say no, and you know, trying to fit in with peers and friends to make ourselves feel better, that it was just like, well, it almost left me with depression, bipolar, divorce, and yeah, wanting to quit my life. So that's how much anybody who's like, when you live outside of your truth, like the damage, you don't realize the damage that happens to the mind, the body, and the soul is just like, and I swore that this would be my mission, that I never wanted anybody, another woman, to feel the way that I felt. And so now, yeah, helping people back to the truth. So I would love to know, Steph, you're all about alignment, you're about intuition, like we're all about these things. And I would love to know your story. You know, I don't know you as well as I would love to know you. Like we're fairly new together here. So
Yeah.
I would love to know, what is your story? What was life like when you weren't connected to truth, to your
Yeah,
truth?
well, I can so relate to everything you just said because it's so vivid to remember that time when I was not connected with my truth. It was what's so interesting. There was like before and after, and a real significant shift in between. And what had happened was I had gotten into a relationship, which was not supposed to be the relationship, but I was really stubborn and leaving this job that I love to move to be with this man in Kentucky, which is a beautiful place, but it's not my body's vibe. Like I'm so meant to be here in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
And I was so out of alignment. I was like sad a lot. I was crying a lot, which was not normal for me. And I wasn't sleeping well at night. I remember he bought me melatonin, which was really nice, but to help me sleep. But I'm like, this is probably not the problem is probably right here. I actually was so out of alignment. I was driving to go to move in with him from Utah, like everything I had left in my SUV. And I was actually arguing with him on the phone. It's when you could still kind of have your phone up to your ear.
Yeah.
And I hit black ice in Wyoming. And I remember my car spun around. Grace of God, guardian angel. Seriously, I hit a guardrail and I ended up, no joke, facing back from where I had come. Like, I'm like, okay, I get it, but I did it. I got it. I was like, wow, I'm actually facing backwards. And I heard the voice in my head, you don't have to go. You can turn around and go back. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep driving. So anyway, long story short, I got a coach, somatic coach. I really learned some tools and techniques to kind of vibe back with my truth and to trust my intuition. Because the biggest thing was I wasn't trusting my intuition. I'd kind of like darkened what it would look like to step out of this space that was comfortably uncomfortable. It was definitely uncomfortable, but it was safe somehow. Like I knew it. And I completely feared if I didn't have this mess that I had, right? But what I learned was, just when I stepped in, it was like, talk about quantum leap. Quantum leap. I made the choice to leave the relationship, stuffed everything. Then at that point I had a convertible, so everything in my convertible, because that car was totaled. And I moved to California, and it was like little things that became these synchronicities that were like my guides. Once I locked in and I knew my truth, then my guides could help me. They couldn't help me when I was resisting. And they're like, okay, we're going to line up this friend you can stay with. Okay, here's your dream job that you said you always wanted. It came, right? Yoga teacher training. That's how then I met my husband, and some things didn't work in order for those things to work. And so that's where I really look at, like, if something's not working in your life now, you can be like, okay, sweet. That means something amazing is in front of me. I just have to unlock from this situation. And since then, with building my business and really allowing the intuition to come in more and more, every time I say yes, even when I don't know the outcome, I just know that's the download. I'm like, okay, yes, yes. That's what's allowed everything to really grow and flourish.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. And yeah, it was literally like my intuition. I heard those words when I was ready for out with life, and it said, you have to help yourself. And it was literally like, who said that? Like, I was
Mhm.
not connected to myself. I was not connected to my truth, God, universe, source energy, divine, whatever we call it. Like, I was a million miles away from that connection with myself. And that's why, you know, when you're so far away, when you're so far in your human, you feel so separated, like you have to do everything. This is where we start to control, and we don't listen to these whispers because we're just not aware of them, right? And so it leads us off down this pathway. But like you say, everything, you know, it happens for a reason. The good stuff lead the, you know, the not good, but it's all good, isn't it? You know, but the stuff that doesn't feel good leads us back onto that pathway where you just
Mm-hmm.
then get blown away. Like you say, my business is like, oh my gosh, like I'm absolutely in love with it, but it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that breakdown, if I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have that wake up call to reconnect back to my intuition. So I
Mm-hmm.
love what you're saying with the intuition with the business. And I believe, yeah, the more you connect to that, the more you trust and follow. Trust seems to be my word today, so we'll hit that in a minute. But yeah, the
Yes.
more that you lead and you trust that and you go with it, like honestly, doesn't it just open up so much in your life? It just opens up so much in
Mm-hmm.
life, so much in business, and it affects everything. Have you found that? Like it affects everything in your
Every
life.
time. Yeah, because that's the thing. We're not in this sort of like the business isn't in a bubble. The business is part of your whole life. And the thing is, you know, we can hit these sort of money goals, and I'm sure you are aware of this, but it's like, well, wait a second, is that what I really wanted?
Yeah,
So, you know, but that's where we get to kind of recalibrate and yes, is what I want. And, you know, it's like,
yeah,
well, how am I getting there? How does it feel as I'm there? Because we get to have it. Like it's meant for, yeah, I really do believe if we're being guided towards it. And that to me is the beauty of intuition, is when we get these downloads and we say yes, we learn more and more how to trust. Like that feeling of trust can kick in kind of quicker, and then it allows these things to manifest even quicker. I think the human really can just get in the way sometimes. So,
we have like so many, like, you know, we know that we have, you know, belief systems from generations before and past lives and all this stuff that builds up that gets in the way.
yeah.
And like you say, when you're closer to your human, that's where we're just like everything just feels so hard and stuff like that. And I love what you say. I want to pick up on what you just said about, you know, the business being a bubble. That was very much me when I started in my business, was the business. Like I gave so much power to the business,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me away from family. I was sacrificing everything else. Like the most important thing was business. And it, yeah, it just, you know, I almost resented my business because it took me away from my family, it took me away
Mm-hmm.
from the fun, it took me away from myself. And it was just, I've got a client who recently, you know, was like, could he help me out, like between a relationship and a business, because she'd had this beautiful download, she was in this lovely energy, she wanted to be posting and creating content around it all. But just before then, her partner said, I'd love to go, you know, should we go to the cafe this weekend, should we go and spend time together? She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Got so wrapped up in the business, so wrapped up in the download and the content. I think she was sat there for like 2.5 hours, and she said to her partner, okay, should we go now? And of course the partner was like, no, you've kind of missed the mark now. Like, why do you have to do this? And it was
Mm-hmm.
fear led again, you know, up against the human. So far, was out of the connection with her intuition and her truth, because, you know, she feared that that emotion, the goodness, the download would disappear. And so she sacrificed partner, going out and all this good stuff, and was like, how do
Mm-hmm.
you handle that, Claire? And I love what you're saying, because for me, the business, everything outside of yourself, relationships, business, cars, houses, money, whatever you call it, is just an expansion of who
Mm-hmm.
you are on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
right? The intuition. And I said to her, but where do you not see going for brunch, like, you know, in the cafe with your partner? Why is that not your business? And it just
Right.
like made her think for a minute and went, well, how is that my business? Like, it's not content, it's not marketing, I'm not coaching. It's like, but your business and expansion, who you are. Like, you think now how much you've missed out. You could have expanded that
Mm-hmm.
feeling all the
Mm-hmm.
way through the morning, through everything, through going to the cafe, through being with your partner, that you would have
Mm-hmm.
stayed in that energy, and that memory would have been downloaded. So when you go to do your marketing, your content and stuff, you still have that all there. Like, that is still your business. So I'd love to ask you, how do you connect with your business being an expansion, and how do you use your intuition to make that an expansion of who you are and not kind of have this 9 till 5 type thing? Or do you have like these set hours for your business? Or how do you allow all those internals to come through you and your business that then you don't need to sacrifice on the outside?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I I am not, I've got I balance it with kids, and there's an in-person retreat I work with as well. And so I'm a very go with the flow person. And I just hired a VA. So I'm super
They're the
I had one,
best.
but I had one, but this is like locked and loaded. So oh my gosh, because that's the kind of stuff like that is also getting support is how I handle my business, so that I free myself from some of these things that I can free myself of, right? Um, I have this process that I learned kind of during COVID, and it's kind of, you probably do something very similar, and it's called vision casting. And I love it. And I'm actually starting another round in 8 weeks for people, or an 8 week program at the end of the month for people. And what I love about it is it's literally looking at like the whole scope of your life. And then what do you really want? Like, it's really important to me that when I'm in my business, I'm present. And when I'm with my kids or my family, I'm also really present, right? Because things can bleed, And I don't want, like, whatever we're going to do on a Saturday morning, go to a cafe, right? Like, I don't want what I'm doing in my business to bleed into my family. That's not the point. The point of my business is to enjoy my family. It's to expand, so we have more expansion with that.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I vision cast, and I do it. I miss some days, but I try to do it daily. And what it looks like is I just look at, like, what does the day look like? Like, what is it I'm trying? What am I doing today? What am I missing that would be fueling me? Because I see my clients do this. They'll write a bunch of stuff that they have to do. I'm like, well, what about you? You're doing all this other stuff for other people. Like, did you miss something for yourself in there? And
Yeah.
it's like manifesting. You just write in the present tense how you desire that to go. And it's so interesting because I was sharing this with a client recently, and I had vision casted for that day that I had the meeting with her. And so I'm like, oh, I shared the screenshot. I'm like, this is about you. And I had vision casted how we were going to start with grounding. And it's so funny because I didn't always do this with her, but like grounding and intention setting. And it's literally what we did. And what's so interesting is the subconscious, it knows, like, whatever you vision casted and written down, the subconscious, you almost are just literally programming yourself to actually go do that. Like, I programmed the human to go, and that's what we did. And it was exactly what was needed for her that day, that moment. I'm like, hey, we did do it. We did it.
Of course.
And I noticed it when, when there was more COVID and we were all home and my kids were home. I was getting really frustrated, helping my young son with school and like trying to run my business, because I was like back and forth, back and forth. And I was torn, right? Like, I wanted to be so present, and I wanted to be present with the business. It was driving me insane. And I'm sure you can relate to that time frame. And that's when I learned this process. And I would write down, like, I'm present with my son when he needs me. And I wrote other things like that around my business. And I remember going into his room when he was calling for me, like the 10th time he needed me. And I'm like, oh, and it started to get irritated. I'm like, no, wait a second. You told the human you were going to be present and available. And it completely shifted my energy. And we
Yeah.
know everything is energy. And I swear to you, from that day forward, that the whole dynamic with his homeschooling just completely changed. And it was so grateful.
Yeah. That's it. Half the time, like, especially children. Yeah, we've got 4 children that are dependent on us, through
Hmm.
COVID, 4 different age groups. And, one of our children just was not getting the online thing. There was so much stress. And it was like, well, I need to be in my business. Who's going to have the kids? Who's going to be this? And when I looked at it, and I was just like, but I am my business. If I'm stressed, whether I'm so say in the business, doing content or whatever, or whether I was with my child, like neither, like you say, neither was really getting the attention, and I
Hmm.
wasn't feeling the best, of course, like you say, everything's energy, like attracts like what was I really attracted in those moments, you know? And it's just like the whole thing was a mess. It was spaghetti. It was, you know, it was just all of that stuff. And when I realized, you know, even being, like you say, with the kids, even helping them out during COVID, schooling, online schooling, that is, you're there for them. We feel good, you know, we're offering, you know, our support to them and really acknowledging them, and that for therefore makes us feel really good as a mom. And I was like, well, if I feel really good, then I can attract. This isn't
Yeah.
about what we are doing, this is about how we feel when we
Mm-hmm.
are doing the thing. And it was like, okay, do you feel good supporting your kids? Yeah. Do you feel good? I put a post up the other day, like I think I was cleaning the oven, and it took a lot to put that out there because I was like, I just wanted to clean the oven. We've got a new kitchen at the minute, and I was just like, I really want it gleaming and shiny. And I just listening to music. I loved it. And it's like, you can still receive. I always receive clients and money in the weirdest times when I'm either cooking for the
Yes.
family, I'm in the shower, I'm, you know, walking the dog. We think it's when we're on screen. They think, you know, we think it's when we're present, or our post has just gone out, or content or a reel's gone out, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work like that. And I think when you can really love and feel what you're doing, then that puts you in the right place for receiving. It gives
Mm-hmm.
you, puts you in the right place for downloads, like you say, when you were working then with your child, like you're in a good
Mm-hmm.
place and you're opening up and the downloads come through, and then you've got something to share.
Yeah.
And I think like the coaching industry and entrepreneurs are screaming out for, I'll call it realness, you know, like for truth, that
Yeah.
they don't want to see everything that's all professional and everything's polished and you've got all your shit together and all your healing's done and stuff like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like that. That's not how it is. And I think when we can show up and go, yeah, I'm balancing 4 kids, you know, we've just had a death in the family, cancer in the
Oh,
family,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Simon had a stroke in the family, but it's like,
Yeah.
but it gets to be all of that, and it still
Mm-hmm.
gets to be celebrations, it still gets to be
Mm-hmm.
clients, it still gets to be money, it still gets to be kids, it still gets to
Mm-hmm.
be, it
Mm-hmm.
still gets to be
Yeah.
all this beautiful stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's what I think people want to see now
Because
in a
that's real
business.
life. I mean, you know, anyone I've hired is because they're like me in some way, or they've, you know, surpassed where I am, so I can learn from them. But like, I get that they get me, you know, these, like, that's the thing. I'm not this cookie cutter, just 9 to 5. I mean, I'm not just sitting 9 to 5, like business, you know, I am flowing through this and that. And so of course, I'm going to relate to that. And I have seen in your posts and everything you've been going through, like with Simon, and it's just, um, you know, it's your humanity. I mean, it's a lot. And, you know, you're going through all this, and if you hid all that, like, what would that even be? You know, I mean, that's like, we get to feel you, like we get to feel the emotion, like that's the whole thing, like the emotion of like a birth, or when you know, celebrate a client, or like even these hard emotions when you're going through these things that are really scary, you know, that's like, that's the real deal.
I remember when Simon had his first, when he had his stroke last year, it was September the 11th, and I was working with a coach then, and I think we were sort of like 4 to 6 weeks in. So he was hospitalized for 4 weeks. So I was traveling every day, doing the kids and everything else, and it was a lot. And I remember my coach going, "How are you so strong, Claire? How are you so strong?" And I had to think about that. And I was like, it wasn't about being strong. It wasn't stiff upper lip. It wasn't like I've got this masculine
Hmm.
energy. And I said to her, it took me a while, but I pondered and I was like, yeah, why is it I can hold all of this?
Hmm.
And even when I come back from the hospital, like I would sit on my own sometimes when we didn't have the kids, and I wouldn't want to speak to anyone. The curtains were shut, movie would be on, I'd probably eat cereal for dinner, and I just cried because that's what my humor wanted. But
Yeah.
inside, because I was so connected to my truth and my intuition, and I just knew that this was happening for us and for the whole family in so many different ways, I just knew. And I think that's the difference between being powerful and strong to being empowered and connected. Like there's a
Oh.
difference. It
Oh
keeps
yeah.
you strong, it keeps you
Hmm.
grounded, it allows you
Hmm.
to cry. Like I think I had my biggest month within about a week of Simon having his stroke. It was
Yeah.
insane. It was like 30 odd thousand within. I think it was about 6 hours, and I'm breaking my heart at night, and I'm being the fiance who's, you know, looking at my partner who couldn't even smile, couldn't even walk, couldn't even do this. And it just made me like realize, when you have that connection within
Mm-hmm.
yourself, that to your
Mm-hmm.
intuition, to this higher
Mm-hmm.
power, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the word was magical, but it's so much more powerful than
Yeah,
magical.
it
It's
is. It's
just
hmm Yeah, and I mean, I think of it as like you know, clearly like you're really passionate about what you do. Like this is your soul song, and there it's there for a reason, you know. And it comes like I kind of give this analogy that our soul is way bigger than this than how we get embodied, right? And like we are connected when we talk about source, universe, God, whatever word you want to use, like we're sort of given this expression in this one being, like me, you, right? And so whatever we're given, it's meant for us. And I feel like, you know, when we connect with that, and we connect with, like, I can tell like you get that full body yes feel, you know. There's this thing we call the sway test, where it's like when we're not quite sure that feeling, we can do this sort of sway test for intuition. But like, you know, your yes, like, you know, your no. And I think the closer we can get to that, it's sort of like these little just, I guess, like, you know, micro um just nudges kind of in the right direction. And when we keep following those, it's almost this surrender. You know, you talk about the masculine energy, but there is a lot of this sort of feminine of receiving, the energy of allowing, the energy of flow. Like if you were like masculine energy, you might be like, well, I have to get a sale when I'm unalive. But if you're in the flow, you're like doing the dishes. Like that's, you know, that's really the beauty of it. And the more we're able to tap into that surrender, I feel like it allows us to sort of let go of that tightness of control over the how, you
yeah.
know. And then you know, it allows us to be present in all ways, because I get to feel my human. Like I get to go get massages and hula hoop and do my yoga and play my singing bowls, because like that's what I adore. Like I adore my clients, and I adore like the richness that, yeah, like gives me the downloads, gives me, you know, like the connection. It's all connection. That's what it really all is.
100%. And it's so fair, because this is one of the things that my clients, when they come to me, this is the biggest thing that they struggle with, because at least the first month or so, like my clients will be very much in the masculine, very much in the strategy, very much in the achieving world. Like they're very successful, they have the money, they have the clients, but they're missing that internal
Mm-hmm.
feeling. You know, they're feeling lost, empty and confused. And then, you know, they look at me and go, how can you go for all this stuff and yet you're still like, you know, loving life, and you just find fun in everything, and yet all this stuff's happening to you? How does that happen? And it's about, like you say, you know, leading with the intuition, but you got to understand, you got to learn, what is that, how does it speak to you? Like you say, what is your
Yeah.
yes, what is your
Mm-hmm.
no? Do you hear it? Do you see it? What is that? What's yours? What's somebody else's?
Mm-hmm.
And it scares the hell out of them, and I trigger them like so much, because we quieten down everything outside of them, you know,
Mm-hmm.
quieting down all the noise that they're like, but if I don't do anything, like, oh my gosh, now I'm not doing anything. Because, you know, my clients are very much in the achievement world,
Mm-hmm.
that they're used to the hustle and the doing. And you
Mm-hmm.
calm that down and trying
Yeah.
to explain, you know, that you hear these nudges, you feel these nudges in those times, like you're saying, when you're doing yoga, when you're with your singing bowls, when you're
Mm-hmm.
cooking for the kids, when you're in your shower, when you just wake up. Like when you're in that go mode, that's not where you hear it as such. Not when you're,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like this right now, we're not listening to our own intuition stuff. Yes, it's flowing through us, and the
Mm-hmm.
conversation is very channeled and it's not scripted, but there's a thing about being on your own and being in that space to listen. And I know that is something that a lot of women do struggle with, because it's not seen as doing, and yet they
Mm-hmm.
have the biggest breakthroughs, the
Right.
Biggest
Well, and
breakthroughs.
I have like, this is like my total soapbox right now because I teach, you know, I have like an intuition immersion. I teach classes on intuition. And what I notice many times is women doubting. I'm going to talk about women because that's who I work with mostly. So women doubting their intuition. And is that really my intuition? And well, what if it's not? And the only reason we're even having the conversation where it's hard for these driven women you're speaking of to slow down like that is because of how our society formed. It formed very patriarchally, right? It formed with this you know, there's the divine masculine, divine feminine, we want to embrace all of it, but like, so we're an over masculinized doing, and then that got celebrated as action, that got celebrated as competition, that got celebrated as like more than, right? And so we're coming into a space right now, and I feel like if we talk about nothing else, like this is the most important thing we can talk about is reclaiming our power. I know, reclaiming our fucking power through our intuition, because you know, there's so many ways you can run your business, but there's a way that you're meant to, with your intuitive way, right? You're gonna understand how, possibly in the methodology, like through a coach, like through you, through me, like what we can provide that way. But like you're gonna find that. And I've just gone through this process of doing that. Like, you know, I have a coach, I'm still with her, but I actually like stepped away just to go back to me because I needed to reorient. And like I'm still, you know, it's still there. Like now I'm like kind of re-emerging with like, okay, this is the plan, you know, because we can sort of like look so much to the outside. You know, we're not taught in school. What are we taught? We're taught, listen, we're taught there's an expert. We're taught you need that next certification. You need this, you need to know that, you need to get certified. What is even the certification? It's just like, I mean, I want you to become an expert in your thing for sure. And of course, like there's ways to do that, but this idea that it's, you know, all outside of ourselves is just not true. This idea that there's these experts we need to listen to is simply not true. Like with intuition, you can get the information for exactly what your body needs. And I'm not saying like don't go to Western medicine. Like I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying don't get your PhD. Like clearly it all has its place, but it's sort of like dismantling this construct of this hierarchy. And I want to see more and more women getting into that top percentage, you know, like getting that abundance that is available. Like it's available to us, and we don't have to do it the way that it's been it's just a construct.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. I had a conversation with Simon the other day, and I like had this download, and I said to him, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "It's really something I want to speak. Like, this is my truth. This is what I believe, but I'm also kind of putting the coaching business out of business." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a real tricky one." But it is basically that. It's like, you know, your best coach is within you. You don't
Well,
need to be paying.
but I feel
Um,
like it's both and. I really do. Because as I say that with the intuition, there's also things that I I don't know. You know what I mean?
right. You
Like,
only know what you know.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
I do feel like as this is what I feel. Like as I up level, I'm I'm moving into that new space. I love having a coach because to me, it's like I am investing in myself. It keeps me accountable. You know, there are definitely things that I'm not aware of as I up level. Like there's going to be other questions that are going to come up. And while I have, you know, certain downloads and intuitions, it doesn't mean that I understand everything around marketing. It doesn't mean I
Yeah.
understand everything around, you know,
100%.
so that's where I
Yeah.
feel like it is both and. Like I
Yeah.
love having a coach. Like I get what you're saying. And what's so interesting is a lot of these more intuitive things that are coming up, they have been like, for instance, I have this little thing called a Healy, right? It's like a microfrequency device, but that kind of technology, microfrequency, it really got sort of squashed by big pharma because it puts big pharma out of business. Look at
Right.
like the shamans, look at like the medicine people, like,
Yeah.
you know, they're around, but what if we were like abundantly available? It was just normal to have your shaman, normal to have your like that was like sort of dampened and squelched because it was bumping up against the experts, right? So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I
And I
feel
think
like
like,
it's
you know, it's yeah, I'm up for both. I have a coach and I coach, and but what I see is like, and here's how you can recognize this is anybody who's watching, like have you hired coaches, you've used their methods, like you feel like you've done all the programs, you've done one-on-one coaching, you've been in the master classes, you've been in the masterminds, and yet it's still not clicking for you? Like, this is where we need to be really careful to, one, the intention behind why we're hiring a coach. Are
Mm-hmm.
we in our power? Is this something that's going to activate us forward? Is this something that's going to help clear us to move forward? Or are we following somebody's strategy that worked for them, that we believe when we do that thing, then it will work for us too? And
Mm-hmm.
I've had that experience where it's like, yep, if I learn this, you know, this is in my early days where I wasn't quite so open, but it will be okay. When I do this thing, then I will have, it's the real cause and effect, and go, why does this not work for me? And then
Mm-hmm.
ending up, you know, but with these new patterns that I'm not good enough, it doesn't work for me. But
Mm-hmm.
that was because I wasn't stood in my truth. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people can sink into this. Are you still stood in your own truth whilst being led by another? Or are you out of, as you would say, out of your power, disempowered, and just doing what other people are telling you? So I've recognized in some of my clients, like I can see the work that we're doing together, and then all of a sudden on the online space there's something completely different, and you can see straight through it, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not my client. Like, there's a real disconnect with their authority, sorry, with their authenticity. And, you know, then we have a conversation. They're like, oh yeah, such and such told me to do that. Oh yeah, well,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
slipped back into my old ways, and I went all about the money again, and you can
Mm-hmm.
just see it happening. So a coach would then pull you back through, you know, you've defaulted back, let's pull you out. So there is definitely a space for both, but
Yeah.
I think it's when you can have both, that's the thing. And I think a lot of people don't have that internal connection. They're not listening to their intuition, they are disempowered, they're not connected to their truth, and
Yeah.
therefore they're putting the power into another, or a power into the strategy or the next
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like you say, when you're coming from the inside out, when you're feeling like fulfilled and you're ready to expand things, okay, what don't I know? Marketing, like rubbish at marketing. Or what am I, do you know what I, or basically what doesn't make you feel good? Are you trying to do the marketing, doesn't feel you good? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hire it out, or go and learn
Mm-hmm.
different methods that feel really good for you. Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
love doing the finances in your business? Like, I don't, I handle that out, because it's
Like,
like, yeah, you get to be supported
yeah.
when you are in your truth.
Right.
Then you realize that you get to receive, like you say, the divine
Right.
feminine. You get to receive the
Mm-hmm.
help, the guidance, the support, the love, like all the things that
Right.
come in. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you. It is
Yeah.
both, but I think it's when the intention, when, you know, women step into that intention and give the coach the power, give the
Mm-hmm.
strategy the power,
Yeah.
rather than taking that back from the inside and
Right.
moving from the message from the
Yeah.
inside.
And I think we're going to try out different things, and that's okay. And that's where we get to come back to the center. And what I notice is, you know, I work with a lot of women. They may not necessarily be in the coaching field or entrepreneurial field, or they may be an entrepreneur, but they're like a restaurant owner, or they, you know, own a certain business. But it's what still comes back to is, you know, we can have these sort of fears come up, especially as we grow. And sometimes, like what the intuition does, it uncovers that real fear. It uncovers that fear of the change. And then, because underneath that, when you unpack that, is like the fear of, well, what's that going to look like? And it's all those things. Like, again, if we're being given something, like, you know, someone's a restaurant owner and she's multiple restaurants, and she's, you know, wants to kind of hand the business over, but it's like, well, what is it? It's the control, right? Like, I'm in control of this. So it's really just, again, coming back to the why. Like, why would I do this? It's asking the question, like, for the sake of what would I do this? For the sake of what would I share my truth? For the sake of what? Because it might be about the money, but the money is giving us the freedom. The money is giving us these enriched experiences with our family. It's giving us, it's not, you know, the money in and of itself. It's like, well, we kind of have to unpack it, you know?
Yeah. And it's about the attachment to that, the meaning that we're bringing to the things on the external. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, like, you know, with my clients, the high achievers, they, the meaning behind the money is that they're good enough, that they are, they've achieved, they've
Mm-hmm.
done, they're successful. and yet inside they feel, like I say, empty, lost, confused.
Right.
Why am I sat in like the dream car that I desire and yet I feel nothing?
Mm-hmm.
And so we really help them to take the meaning away from money, cars, houses, relationships, whatever the thing is, and they actually get to a point of pure detachment. They hit fear in this moment because now they're like, don't feel anything. Like, what's the point? Why do I even need to
Right.
coach? Why do
Mm-hmm.
I need the money? And I'm like, because you've detached all meaning, you've detached all energy from it.
Yes.
And now you're at this neutral, which is the most scariest thing, to be sat at neutral. Like, we know what fear feels like. It's
Yeah.
good. We can cope with that. We know
Yeah.
what, joy and happiness and all the success feels like. We can deal with that. But when something becomes neutral, that's where I really have to hold my
Mm-hmm.
clients and go, okay, now we get to connect and bring power back into money. We get to bring a new meaning in. But when
Mm-hmm.
we come from that inside place, so you're already fulfilled within yourself, you're happy. And I used this example with a client yesterday. I was like, okay, what do you love? And she loved food. And I was like, okay, so you can have food, or with lots of money now, you can go off to like Michelin star restaurants and eat food. Like, that's the difference between not having money and going to cook your own food, or when you have the money you get to go and have the bigger experience. And I said, then when you have loads of wealth, you get to sit in the private jet that's going to fly you off to Paris to the top-notch restaurant to eat your food. Like, you get to have all of that when the money just becomes the expansion of what already is. She loved
Mm-hmm.
food, so food without money might be a McDonald's, but food with money, now you can jump on the private jet and fly off to Paris. Now you can have some food. Like, it's the same thing, but money just expands what's already in. So I said to her, so now what do you want to eat? Your McDonald's, or do you want to be on the private jet and fly to Paris? She's like, I want to be on the private jet flying to Paris. And I was like, yep, then you're gonna need the money. You get to have all of that stuff, but it's how and where it comes from. When it's outside in, there's that disconnect, that's unfulfillment. But when it comes from within out, it's just like, oh, you get to have all
Exactly.
the friggin' stuff.
Yeah, and as we were talking, I was thinking about, working with clients. We do this energy work, so we're able to shift from, you know, it's sort of like, I think of it as like a light beam. Like, you might have this connection. It starts out as this light beam to the money, but then you get there and you realize, like you're saying, oh, well, wait a second, it doesn't feel fulfilled, because the frequency, because everything's energy, the frequency with just money is its own frequency. But when we're connecting to the frequency of enjoyment, the frequency of travel, the frequency of that experience, then like that's going to be a completely different light beam. It's going to be a completely different frequency. So sometimes what we have to do is we have to sort of release some of the energies around certain things and reconnect in with the energy that is your divine truth. And then when you connect in with that, then it's a go. Then it's like, okay, all things go.
I love
Because
it
it
all.
connects it.
Yeah. I love this so much. I love it. I love it. So what if we've got any of our listeners here that wanted to really understand how would you describe intuition, and how would you describe intuition through your business? Like, or how
Yeah.
they can use their intuition through their business. What does it look like? What would it feel like? And
Mhm.
maybe can you explain what it would be like to be not in their intuitive self? I think we've kind of covered it, but let's just
Yeah.
see and sum this up for them.
Yeah, well, to start with, what does intuition feel like? I mean, I feel like there's two pieces to this. One is like how it shows up in the sort of the body. It's like the gut feel of the yes. Like, do you ever feel like full bodied? Like, what is the frequency? What is the emotion? Like, when we are in that feeling, like, I'm so excited to do this. I'm so jazzed about this that I'm doing right now. I love the amount of work that I have. I love how it's flowing. When we're in that feeling, that is like our intuition, us saying yes. Like, I'm saying yes to this. You might get into a place where you feel overloaded. You actually feel like maybe you're charging too less for the amount of clients that you have, and you're kind of feeling like you're pulling back. What is that feeling? Am I feeling resentful? Am I feeling like I want to do less? Like, that's like sort of backing away. That's your intuition telling you that you need to just pivot. You need to pivot how you're doing things. It's different. People will say, well, how do I know if it's my intuition or if it's fear? fear, because fear is going to be that thing that just wants to help keep you safe, even if it's like not really working out that well. We know it. And so fear is going to feel different. And the more we slow down and we feel into, well, where does that intuition sense? Where do I sense that in my body? Where do I sense that yes? Where do I sense that no? And then notice fear. Well, what does that feel like? We're going to feel the difference. It's going to show up differently. Fear might be like clenching the jaw. It might be like tightening in the shoulders. It might be tightening in the belly. It's definitely going to be a different feel. And the quicker we get at knowing this, then the more we can expand. It's just when we slow down to know ourselves that way, it quickens everything. The next part of this with the intuition is the way we're getting downloads from something greater than ourselves. So our intuition is sort of that radar to help us connect with the way bigger picture, which is kind of your soul's expression. Like our purpose is just to kind of be, but like your expression is why you're so stoked to have the business. It's why you're, interested in singing bowls. So your soul's expression is going to be this download, and you get this assistance through communicating with source, getting messages from your guides. It's being available to the synchronicities available to you. It's being available to those messages that you might get through what we call our clair senses, right? Like when you said you heard that those words and you're like, this doesn't sound like my voice. Where is that coming from? Like that's like that download that's connecting intuitively, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
um,
And there
that
is
to me,
definitely a difference, isn't there? You just
yeah,
know, like I tend to journal stuff out, like and channel through in journaling.
yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
I write a word down. I'm just like, what does that even mean? Like, I need to go look it up. And it's just like, I know it's not coming from me. And
Yeah,
so if somebody's, yeah, working through that, a lot of the times you're like, this doesn't sound like me, but it is me. Do you know
that's the
what I
channel
mean? It's
writing.
just,
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to connect in with your intuition, with your highest self, with your guides, where you're just sort of like asking a question and then writing it out as it comes to you. And even if things come through where you're kind of doubting it or it seems disconnected, sometimes like our guides, they, their frequency is like fifth dimension. It's a very, you don't really see it. It's not like this is a coffee mug, right? So we have to sort of elevate our frequency while they kind of come to us. And so sometimes we're going to get something like maybe you'll picture a pen. You're like, why am I seeing a pen? But I always say, well, go with that. Let's see where that's going to take you, because they might be showing you that so they can show you you're meant to write your book or whatever that might be leading towards. It's like a lot to give like that whole message. So they try to give you something really tangible to guide you there. So yeah, so those are some things around intuition. I think your other question was like kind of how does it show up for us kind of in business? Is that right?
yeah, how
Yeah.
can we, how anybody watching, like, how can they use their intuition through business?
Yeah, well, I would say, you get a lot of information from outside. I think one of the main things we can always go back to is the questions. It's sort of like when we're talking with our guides, like, show me where I'm meant to go. It's asking, because when we get to like a pivot point or we're facing a fear, we can get assistance. We can get assistance from our guides. So just even asking for support, asking for guidance, show me a synchronicity. Like I'm open, I'm available. When we simply do that, we're like connecting that frequency with our guides to assist us. I think the next piece really is when we feel that hit to say yes, but then we feel afraid, notice that hit that said say yes. And then notice how long is it going to take you to do that. You got the go ahead, you got the yes. I think when we see that, and then we might immediately go into that prefrontal cortex of, well, how am I going to do that? And like, wait a second, wait a second, just go on back. You got the hit, you got what you're meant to be doing, right? Like, how can I go with that? If this were seamless and everything was going to work out, what would be the next thing I would do? just allow yourself to entertain without
Yeah.
any of the jumble what that can look like, because that is literally, it's right there for you to guide the way, you know. And if you need to go take a bath or go fold some laundry so you're kind of out of the space, do
Just do
something
it.
mindless, like it can help you get to that space where like, okay, I know I'm going to get these brain pops when I'm open. These brain pops are coming to me because they're coming from some greater plan. Like if I'm here to help others, I'm open to this greater plan, right? If I see my ego get in the way that wants to tell me why it's going to be hard, or compare to somebody else, like I can just observe that. The more I can just observe that but not become it, then the more I can stay tuned in with my intuition.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I had a client recently that went, oh, I'm starting to I am the witness. I can hear and I'm witnessing the conversations going on in my head. And I was like, yes, you're having your
Yes.
two-way conversations now. Like when the ego's going, you get to just sit back and like, okay, you could keep going. Carry on a minute. I'm just going to sit over here. I'm just going to watch you. Just keep
Yeah,
speaking for a minute. That's good. It's like,
exactly.
whoa. I was like, yes, you're getting
It's
it.
so great. You're like just watching. You're like, okay, okay, wait till
Okay.
you're done. I'm listening. I also love I'll do this workshop with people where we actually look at like the fear or like the ego, and we sort of give it like a name. We give it like a little persona. Like I love to think of like a little pug dog or a little gremlin, and I just give it something to do. Like if it starts to want to come back to like tug on me, I'm like, no, you're gonna be busy over here with your knitting or or on your iPad, because I got stuff to do. It's like we allow ourselves to notice it, but then we like kind of give it, like I love to visually give it a place to be. So it's
Right.
not like with me.
Right. Yeah, I found recently because I used to do a lot of tapping and EFT, and that was when I was sort of shifting a lot of beliefs and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fears and things like that from the body. But I'm kind of at a space now, I don't need to tap as often.
Right.
But there's definitely like when fears come in, I kind of see like, yeah, a crowd and like a fear will step forward. And I'm finding that the fears or the doubts or whatever just want to be acknowledged and just like seen. And so it's like, yep, okay, like you say, you've given yours a persona and go, okay, I see you, here you are, but I'm just going to put you over here. And the more I've done that, and I kind of see my fears as a child, and so I'm just like, the fear steps forward, and then I just get into like that mothering
Yeah.
zone, and the
Mm-hmm.
fear just becomes very young and very childlike, and
Mm-hmm.
it's short and in a way. And it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, okay, your fear of, well, I don't know, let's call it fear of investing or something. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
fear of investing. Come on, come
Right.
forward a minute. Like, just stand there. It's okay. And then I'll put my arms around her and
Yeah.
around the fear. And it's almost like the fear just wants to be acknowledged. And it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you see me, hear me. Yeah, okay, we're good. And it like just like dissolves the power that
It
was in the
does.
fear. But
Yeah.
definitely those personas, like you say, seeing your ego and your intuition as two separate things, starting to witness the ego, start to witness the fears, start to acknowledge them, start to
Mm-hmm.
see them as not yourself. And even a program or a belief, like I resolved and pulled out a big belief today. But again, that was through intuition and journaling, and
Yeah.
getting close
Mm-hmm.
and asking that question. So that was really important, what you were saying, like with the business, about asking those questions. And I can't remember how it came out, but it was all about receiving.
Yeah.
And I did tap on that one this morning, and I was tapping and I was literally like, oh, we have a program here. Like, it's not even me anymore. Even the belief systems are something kind of outside of it. They are something separate to me. It's like, this is
Mm-hmm.
just a
Mm-hmm.
program, and therefore
Yes.
please release this program. It's not I am that. Like,
Yes.
yes, it was in my body, it was in my mind, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
program. Let's just zoom out. It was just a belief, it's just a
Yeah.
program. Can we shift
Mm-hmm.
that one out? And I called in my spirit team, and I'm like, okay, we got another one. Like, could you please remove this from myself, my
Yes.
body, from every time,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, again, you just get to be the witness of those. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is so beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I literally asked myself a question today. I was talking to God and was like, yeah, what do you want me to do today? What do you want me to speak about? And it literally
Mm-hmm.
gave me what I was to go live on,
Mm-hmm.
not here on the show, but like over on my
Yeah.
Instagram. I just did like a little story live. and just spoke that through. And I was like, okay, this is
Yes.
what needs to be said today.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about trust and, you know, things like that and speaking your truth. And I was like, okay, good, thank you. So again, like that's something else, like you say, it can actually
Yeah.
help run your business. It can
Yes.
give you those, okay, what am I supposed to do next? And I heard for ages, just have fun, Claire, play, Claire, fun, play, Claire. And I was like, oh, I was getting so frustrated, like, no, tell me something proper. And it was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, that is the guidance. You know, where are you
Yes.
getting too overcomplicated? Where are you overthinking? Where are you trying too hard? Like, where do you just need more
Yeah.
play? And so
Mm-hmm.
it took me a while to like be able to trust that
Right.
intuition. You know, the ego's like, no, you should be working. Let's get behind the desk. And it was like,
Right.
but actually, your intuition knows best. Like,
Well,
always,
and
always,
that's the
always.
thing. Yeah,
Like,
I
go
love this
play.
because you clearly, like, you are literally walking the talk. Like, because you're doing it. Like, you're sitting and you're allowing intuition to guide you. You're not just like, boom, work, computer, da da da. Like, you're literally, that's exactly what you're doing. I love it. It's so good. And what I was thinking about was, you were talking about that is, you know, our businesses, I love to think about my business as like a being, like a friend, you know, and like we're here co-creating. We're here, not only that, but also just that we have like sort of a spirit animal for our business. And for me, it's the dolphin, and the dolphin is all play. And the dolphin
Right.
just gets to be the dolphin. Like, you don't
Yeah.
ask a dolphin to do other stuff. Like, they just are doing their dolphin things. And so it's kind of like that. And when you're in that kind of field, you know, it just becomes less like, oh, what's the word? I don't know, just perfunctory and
Yeah.
more magic. Like, it gets to be that magic.
Yeah.
It gets to be
Definitely.
that magic because it's not just about you. It's not just about me. Like, you are creating, through the work that you do, generational wealth for women. You know, like for me, I feel like my job is to help women find their freedom, like their full soul's expression, their strength, their trust, their
Mm-hmm.
freedom, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like the more of us, you know, for anyone, I mean, I'm talking a bit about fear, who is having fears about stepping out, showing up, whatever that is, like, this is just that, this is your guides telling you right now. We need you. Like, this is exactly what we need.
Yeah. And like you say, your intuition will pull up the fears that needs anything that needs to be sorted through. Like it
Mm-hmm.
when you have these conversations like with your truth, with God and universe, like everything just gets put it almost like effortless, because you don't need to go
Mm-hmm.
and find your fears. You don't need to go down into the big deep shallows. Like, don't worry. You have a conversation with yourself. You have a conversation with your higher self, God, universe, you know, it will pull it up. Like this morning, I was like all good and we were journaling away, and yeah, I you know, channel soul right, and it was just so it was like, oh my gosh, this big relief, you know, came up, released it off, moved on. What are we doing for the day? What am I talking about? Da, 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 da. It's like, it's just so easy. But I will say, it can make your days look kind of insane and crazy. It's like when you're following your intuition, it's just like, go take a bath, and you're like, but I'm like mid-morning, I'm doing this, I got, just go and take the friggin'
I
bath.
know.
Like, you don't know how or why, or you
Yep.
know, you get into the
Yeah.
logical, I can't, it's midday, I'm should be
Mm-hmm.
doing this, I mean, go and have the friggin' bath. And you'll have a bath and you may be like, do I'm gonna watch somebody live now, and the message will come through or a
Yes.
download will drop, and
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, that's why I had to have the bath. And
Right.
I just want to share one story, actually, when using your intuition for business in terms of investing. I had a time where I already had a coach, I was in some programs, and this new coach came up, and my whole body, like you say, there was just a feeling. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
splenic authority with human design. So I'm a kind of, I just know in my body, like I don't have like a yes no hip, but I just know.
Yeah.
And this coach came up and I like panicked for a minute, so I was like, oh no, here's this feeling, like I just know without knowing. I knew I had to go and work with her, but I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea why. And I literally could not hit the PayPal link to pay it, because I was like, this doesn't make sense. I've got a coach, I'm in programs, like there's almost
Mm-hmm.
no more room for a coach. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why am I being with her? And I literally had to come back and just go, look, your intuition is leading you here. You
Yeah.
don't know why. And I thought, I'm going to
Hmm.
hit the button on the payment and I'm either going to find out, do you know what? It was actually a message to say you don't need another coach or you don't need another program or something's going to come out of this and you'll go, whoa, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, like I never knew that was going to come out. And as it was then, there was a few issues with the coach that I had, and this coach was helping me through and helped me walk away from that partnership very beautifully. So I learned how to walk away. I learned how
Right.
to then, let go of clients and how it's okay to speak your truth when this doesn't feel aligned. And I was
Hmm.
just like, I could never have worked that out when I was trying to hit the button. So for
Yeah.
anybody that's, maybe with the investment point of view or anything,
Hmm.
that's I
Hmm.
just use investment as an example. You may not know why your intuition is pulling you in this way, but this is what comes back to that word, and we round this up now with the word trust. Trust,
Yes.
trust, trust. It's okay hearing your
Yeah.
intuition or seeing
Hmm.
and feeling it, but unless you trust it and go with it, then you're
Hmm.
almost like, it's like having the heating on and all the windows open. It's kind of like,
Yeah. I so feel you on that. Like I've done something recently too with like sort of a double investment, but I always, have this belief like whatever I invest in, it's like going to college. Like it's going to make itself back whatever fold. You can say tenfold, whatever number you want to say. It doesn't even matter because I think back to when I first started coaching at that time, this was like 2014. I was like afraid to start because I didn't know how to market myself. And I also wasn't really sure like what my niche or niche was. And so synchronistically, I went to this event and I met my then coach. So I hired him to be my coach and it completely worked, and this was the thing. At the time, my husband had lost his job. And so we were going into debt. And I'm like, here's some more debt. But it wasn't debt. That's the thing. Like when you're looking at investing in yourself, it's not debt that you're never going to make back. Like you're literally, it's what's called an investment. It's like investing in, I don't know, a really great in Tesla. Think of like if you're investing in Tesla, like you're not gonna
yeah,
just you're going to do that. It's the same
exactly.
thing when you're investing in yourself. It's just like when you get that nudge, and you might get that ping of like, oh, I don't know. Like that to me is where there's you can stay where you're at, right? And if you do nothing, you might watch some great lives that are free and you might get some great information, but when you're really going to get that momentum is when you invest. That's been my experience.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I hear that for you too.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just following that. And I think also, it's like, I always used to invest to get the outcome. Like, yes, I will invest this and I will get 10 times back. And I never did. And it's almost like investing with detaching the outcome as well.
Oh yeah.
Because like when my clients come to me, they're not coming to me for money. They're not coming to me for business strategy or anything like that. They're coming for this connection that we've been talking about, that
Hmm.
brings them back, that allows them to follow their intuition, that allows them to be fulfilled and find this stuff from the inside out. That it's just like, there's always these untangibles that can come from the investment as well. And more
Hmm.
so when we don't even know, it's like I hired Lizzie Vince to do content, and I was coaching with her one-on-one, and I actually didn't end up using half of the content stuff, but I I then met via Lizzie, like my VA that I have now, that is
Hmm.
like, honestly, we're like almost telepathic together. It's what I've always wanted, and I'd hired VAs before and it didn't work. So
Hmm.
it's like I thought I was going in for content again. I didn't need her. I was like, look, I'm not needing this investment right now. I don't understand why this is happening.
Hmm.
Trust the intuition. Found my VA who is incredible, and
Hmm.
as it is, Liz is now my one of my clients, and I met other people that become my clients. So you
Yeah.
can really get in your head about, I'm investing in this, and then something else completely different comes out of it. And I think that's
Hmm.
when you follow your intuition, you trust your intuition, and just allow that. It brings you so much bigger than what you can even comprehend
Exactly.
in
That's
the
the
human
thing.
world.
It's not, it's almost smalling it to say like it's not even yeah. What you're gaining clearly is even, like you said, even if you hire someone and for some reason it isn't a great fit, there's something that comes out of it or that is guiding us towards, I mean, this is the thing. This is where we take risks in our world, and that's part of living. You know, it's not necessarily like I'm going to guarantee
Right.
XYZ. It's like, what if I'm moving into this to expand? What if the whole point is the expansion of my being in whatever way that might be? It might be my happiness. It might be my contentment. It might be like a deeper understanding of myself. Like these things are so they're so intangible, and yet like they're everything.
Everything. 100%.
And they
Yeah.
do touch every piece of our lives. They touch our friendships. They touch our romantic partnerships. They touch our children. They touch like who we be.
Exactly. Like we said, everything outside of ourselves is an extension of who we are on the inside.
Yeah,
Period.
exactly. Yes, like be who. This is something like I always love saying, like, you know, let's be who we are on the inside out in the world, right?
100%. Beautiful. I love that so
Yeah.
much. I want to thank you so much. This has been incredible. And
Thank
I think
you.
this is going to, well, not think, I know this is going to help so many women who get to catch this, whether it is live. I saw people joining to watch, but again, yeah, I couldn't see the comments. If anybody's commented, I'm sorry. And if you
I
catch
can't
this on
even
the
see my
replay,
face. I can't fix the little. It's fine. We're good. I see you. It's
yeah.
all good. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to see the comments after. I know I shared it to a couple groups too. It's amazing talking with you. I love it. And
Thank you.
I'd love to, you know, have you come on to my podcast as well and share your
Yeah, let's
golden
do
nuggets.
it.
So yay.
Let's do all
More
the
talk.
things.
Yeah.
So with that, Steph, where can people find you? Where do you hang out on the online space?
Yeah, you can find me here at my profile, Steph Zito. I really love being on this app called Insight Timer. I'm a teacher there and I do live sessions and I have meditations on there. So we talked about meditation. It's called Insight Timer. And then Instagram, Stephanie Zito. So that's where I'm at.
It's where we all hang out. All the good
Yeah.
stuff. But thank you so much. And this will
Thank you.
be uploaded onto the YouTube channel. So I'm going to share the link with you. So if anybody wants to catch this over on YouTube instead of Facebook, then go on over to the channel, subscribe. It's all very new. So it'd be awesome to go and see you all over there as well. Thank you so much for this. This has been
Thank
incredible. You
you.
are amazing. I love
Oh,
this subject. I knew we were going to connect on a subject, and I think it's both
so
in our
good.
hearts. So I love it. More people obviously need to hear this message. Thank you so much for being here. I love you.
Thank you,
Enjoy the rest of
Claire.
your day,
You
and I'll speak to
too.
you soon. Bye,
All right.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.